My dad forced me to sell the company I built alone. In front of the buyer, he said, "Emily, you spend all day on the computer doing God knows what. Take this thing, sell it already, and do like your brother. Get a real job. Marcus here actually works on serious stuff. Sell this while it's still worth something," he said that. Looking me in the eyes, calling 3 years of work, 45 employees, algorithms that detect discrimination in hiring and credit systems a thing. Something that's not a real job, and I sold it. Out of spite, out of wounded pride. Signed the papers that week, $2.8 million. Handed it over to Marcus Thompson just to prove I made my own decisions. 3 months later, my dad died. But when I opened his will, when I read his letter, I understood the mistake. Not his, mine, because he didn't force me out of disrespect. He saved me, manipulated me to sell clean before the FBI arrested Marcus, protected me from prison by making me hate him. Today, Marcus is serving 8 years in federal prison for money laundering through crypto. The company I sold was seized as evidence, and I run a $12 million company built with the $8.7 million my dad left me. 40 years of his work? All mine, but the guilt doesn't fade, because I chose to sell. Chose to throw everything away because my ego couldn't handle hearing "get a real job," and I lost the chance to say goodbye to him because I was too angry to see he was protecting me. Subscribe now because I need to tell you this from the beginning. How I built Ethicode from nothing. How I fell into Marcus's trap. How my dad sacrificed our relationship to save me. How I discovered the truth too late. It wasn't Marcus who betrayed me. It wasn't my dad who forced me. It was me. I betrayed my own work out of pride. I destroyed everything because I couldn't handle criticism. March 2025, I was 29, 3 years after founding Ethicode AI Governance. Started in a co-working space in Austin auditing customer service chatbots. First case made headlines. AI system was rejecting support requests from people with African American names. Company got sued. I became a reference overnight. 3 years later, I had 45 employees. $4.2 million annual revenue. Audited hiring algorithms that discriminated against women. Credit systems that denied loans to people in poor neighborhoods. Medical AI that diagnosed differently based on skin color. Methodology cited in federal policy on artificial intelligence regulation. I had immense pride. Finally proving AI ethics was real engineering, not spending all day on the computer doing God knows what. My dad, Richard, was 65. Founder of Richard's Smart Cities Engineering. Urban IoT infrastructure. Traffic sensors. Smart lighting. Environmental monitors. 23 municipalities. 8.7 million. 40 years building it. My brother Daniel was 37. 15 years as operations manager working with Dad. Installed sensors. Coordinated teams. Good at executing. Never had to prospect because Dad's name opened doors. And me? The daughter who stayed on the computer. My dad never understood what I did. To him, engineering was sensors, concrete, physical stuff. Software was too abstract. He respected Daniel because he saw trucks leaving with equipment. With me, it was always, "You work with computers, right?" Like it was a hobby. Years hearing him brag about Daniel installing 50,000 sensors and asking me generically, "How's work?" Years feeling invisible, until March when he called saying he needed to talk about something important. I arrived thinking maybe he'd finally recognize my work. Marcus Thompson was there. CEO of Thompson Blockchain Solutions. 38. Expensive suit. Executive smile. Dad and him already talking. Daniel sitting quiet as always. Dad poured wine and went straight to it, saying Marcus had a good proposal for me. Marcus started explaining blockchain, crypto, how my company would be perfect for his business. $2.8 million for Ethicode. 3 months transition. Year-long consulting at $15K monthly. Sounded too good. I questioned why a crypto mining company needed AI ethics auditing. Before Marcus could answer, my dad jumped in. Because nowadays, everything needs paperwork, Emily. You built this at the right time. Take the money and invest in something solid. Real estate. Something real. Something real. Like my company wasn't real. like 3 years of work was playing with computers. I took a deep breath, trying not to explode, and said my methodology had been cited by the federal government, that I'd saved people from being discriminated by algorithms. Dad took a sip of wine and dropped the worst one. Emily, you spend all day on the computer doing God knows what. Take this thing, sell it already, and do like your brother. Get a real job. Marcus here actually works on serious stuff. Thing, real job. Do like your brother. Everything exploded there. Years accumulating. Years feeling smaller. It all came out. I looked at Marcus. How long do you need for the answer? Next week would be ideal. Monday you'll have your answer. My dad looked surprised. I left that house wanting to scream. Spent the weekend researching Marcus. Company seemed legitimate. Big clients. Positive press. Serious investors. Everything checked out. But it wasn't about Marcus. It was about showing my dad I wasn't a child. That I made decisions alone. That I didn't care about his opinion. Monday I closed the deal. $2.8 million. Signed all the papers, texted my dad. Sold it. Like you said, thanks for believing in my work. Explicit sarcasm. He just replied, good luck, daughter. We never spoke again. 8 weeks later, he died. Heart attack at the gym, sudden. 65 years old. Funeral was torture. Guilt mixed with anger mixed with pain. Part of me wanted to make peace. Part still thought he never respected me. 2 weeks later came the will reading. Envelope addressed to me. Inside, deed to his company. Richard Smart Cities Engineering. $8.7 million in contracts. 40 years of work. All mine and a handwritten letter. 3 pages. First line, Emily, when you read this, you'll hate me. It has to be like this. It means you sold clean, and the FBI won't arrest you along with Marcus. If you've ever destroyed something precious out of pride, this story is for you. If you've ever made a horrible decision just to prove a point, you'll understand the pain that's coming. Hit that like because this letter changes everything. And what my dad did to save me will make you cry. The paperwork took 5 days. 5 days where I told myself I was making a smart business decision. 5 days where I ignored every red flag because my ego was too bruised to see straight. Marcus's lawyer sent contracts. Standard acquisition agreements. Non-compete clauses. Transition timelines. Everything looked professional. Everything looked legitimate. My lawyer reviewed it and said it was fair. Clean deal. Take the money, I signed on a Friday. Marcus transferred $2.8 million Monday morning. 3 days later, he took over. Started transitioning my employees. Meeting my clients. I stayed on as consultant like we'd agreed. $15,000 a month for a year. Easy money while I figured out what came next. Except something felt wrong from day one. Marcus started changing things immediately. Hired new people I'd never heard of. Moved servers to different data centers. Asked for access credentials to client systems that my team never needed before. When I questioned it, he'd say it was for blockchain integration. For expanding services. For scaling operations, I wanted to believe him. Needed to believe I hadn't just sold my life's work to someone shady. So I convinced myself it was fine. This was how tech acquisitions worked. New owner makes changes. That's normal. My dad didn't call. Didn't text, nothing. Part of me wanted him to reach out. To say he was proud I'd made a big decision. To acknowledge the sale even if he thought my work was worthless. But silence. Complete silence. 2 weeks after the sale, my mom called. Asked how I was doing. Said Dad had mentioned I'd sold the company. I asked what he'd said about it. She paused, then told me he'd said I'd made the right choice and he hoped I'd use the money wisely. That was it. No pride, no recognition. Just hope I'd use the money wisely. Like I was a kid getting an allowance. I threw myself into consulting work. Showed up at the office even though I didn't need to. Watched Marcus and his new team taking apart everything I'd built. They changed the methodology, simplified the algorithms, made them faster but less accurate. I mentioned it once and Marcus brushed it off, saying clients wanted speed over precision. That's what the market demanded. I stopped going to the office after that. Took my consulting money and stayed home. Started thinking about what came next. Maybe Dad was right. Maybe I should invest in real estate. Something tangible. Something he'd respect. 6 weeks after the sale, I got a call from one of my old employees, Sarah. She'd worked with me from year one. Brilliant data scientist. She was crying. She said Marcus had fired half the team, brought in his own people she'd never seen before. And they weren't doing AI ethics work. They were installing something else on client servers. Something she couldn't identify. When she'd asked about it, Marcus told her it was confidential and she should focus on her assignments. I told her it was probably fine. New management does weird things. Give it time. But after we hung up, I couldn't shake it. Couldn't stop thinking about those server transfers. The new access credentials. The weird hires. 7 weeks after the sale, my dad called. First time since that dinner. He asked if I could come by the house. Said he needed to talk. Said it was important. I almost said no. Still too angry. Still too hurt. But something in his voice made me agree. Showed up that Saturday. He looked tired. Older than I remembered. Mom was out with friends. Just us. He poured coffee and sat across from me at the kitchen table. Asked how I was doing. I said fine. Asked about the money. I said it was in investments. Asked if Marcus was treating me well. I said consulting was going okay. Then he asked the real question. Has Marcus changed much at the company? I told him about the server moves, the new hires, the methodology changes. Tried to make it sound normal, but my voice gave away doubt. Dad listened. Didn't interrupt. When I finished, he just nodded and said, Emily, I need you to do something for me. End the consulting contract. Walk away completely. Don't ask why. Just trust me, please. I stared at him. You literally told me to sell. Now you want me to walk away from $15,000 a month? He looked me straight in the eyes. Yes, I know how this sounds. But walk away. Cut all ties. Do it Monday, please. I left angrier than when I'd arrived. Drove home screaming in my car. He forced me to sell, then told me to walk away from the money. What kind of game was this? Was he trying to prove I couldn't succeed without his approval? But something about his face stuck with me. The tiredness. The urgency. The way he'd said please. Monday morning, I emailed Marcus terminating the consulting agreement effective immediately. Forfeited the remaining money. Sent it at 9 a.m. Had a response by 9:15. Marcus wanted to meet. Said we should talk about this. I ignored him. Blocked his number. Blocked his email. Cut every single tie like Dad had said. 2 weeks later, Dad had the heart attack. Gone before the ambulance arrived. And I never got to ask him why. The funeral was March 28th. 200 people, clients, employees, friends, everyone saying what an amazing engineer he was. What a visionary. How he'd changed their cities. Their lives. Daniel gave the eulogy. Talked about working with Dad for 15 years, learning everything from him, carrying on his legacy. People cried. I sat there numb, feeling like I'd lost him months ago at that dinner. After the service, Daniel pulled me aside, asking if we could talk about the company, about Dad's assets, about next steps. I told him not today. He looked annoyed but backed off. 2 weeks later, the lawyer called. Will reading set for April 14th. Just immediate family, Daniel, Mom, me. We sat in a conference room downtown. Lawyer started reading. Mom got the house, life insurance, retirement accounts, everything they'd built together. Fair. Expected. Daniel got Dad's car, some savings, access to use the company name for his own projects. Also fair. He'd worked there 15 years, then came my part. The lawyer pulled out an envelope saying it was addressed specifically to me. Handed it over. Inside was the deed to Richard Smart Cities Engineering. The entire company, all contracts, all assets, all 23 municipalities, $8.7 million in total value. Everything Dad had built for 40 years, all mine. Daniel's face went white. Started saying there had to be a mistake. He'd worked there 15 years. He'd earned it. This didn't make sense. The lawyer pulled out another document. Letter from Dad. Said I should read it privately, but key points were, I'd shown leadership and business acumen selling Ethicode. I'd proven I could build something from nothing. The company needed someone who could innovate, not just execute. Daniel would have a position if he wanted. But ownership was mine. Daniel left. Didn't say goodbye. Just walked out. Mom tried calling him. No answer. I sat there holding the deed thinking this had to be some kind of punishment. Give me the company to prove I could never run it. To show I wasn't capable. One last way to demonstrate I wasn't as good as Daniel. Got home and opened the envelope fully. The letter was 3 pages. Handwritten. Dad's messy engineering scrawl. Started reading. Emily, when you read this, you'll hate me. It has to be like this. It means you sold clean and the FBI won't arrest you along with Marcus. Marcus Thompson isn't running a blockchain company. He's running a crypto mining operation using ransomware and botnet. He infects client servers with mining software that runs hidden in the background, uses corporate processing power to mine cryptocurrency illegally, then launders it through his blockchain company. Your AI auditing gave you root access to Fortune 500 servers. If Marcus bought your company, he'd inherit those credentials. Every client you ever audited would be compromised. Their systems would be infected. You'd be legally liable as the original point of access. FBI came to me 6 weeks before that dinner. Said they'd been investigating Marcus for 8 months. Planned to arrest him within 3 months. Asked if I knew anyone connected to him. I mentioned you'd met him at a conference. They pulled your company's client list. Their faces went white. If Marcus bought your company and the FBI moved in, you'd be charged as an accomplice. Your servers would be evidence. Your employees would be witnesses. Your clients would sue. Everything you built would be destroyed and you'd be facing 20 years in prison. I couldn't tell you. FBI made me sign NDA. Said if Marcus knew, we knew he'd destroy evidence and flee. They needed him to think everything was normal. Needed the purchase to seem real, so I made you hate me. Made you sell out of spite. Made you think it was your choice. Made you walk away angry so when FBI arrested Marcus, there'd be clear separation. You sold 3 months before the arrest. Terminated consulting 2 weeks before. You were gone. Clean. No connection. I'm sorry I called your work a thing. I'm sorry I said to get a real job. Your work is real. Important. You saved people from discrimination. You built something that matters. I'm proud of you. I've always been proud. I just couldn't tell you without blowing the investigation. The company is yours because you earned it. You built Ethicode from nothing. You can do the same with this. Merge them. Pivot them. Whatever you choose. I trust you. Tell your brother I'm sorry. He worked hard, but he needs to learn to build something himself instead of inheriting it. Maybe you can teach him that. I hope you forgive me someday. I hope you understand I did this to save you. I love you, Emily. Dad, I read it 3 times. Then called the FBI field office number he'd written at the bottom. Agent confirmed everything. Marcus had been arrested April 2nd, charged with wire fraud, computer intrusion, money laundering, using botnet for crypto mining, 23 counts. Trial set for next year. My old company had been seized. All servers, all files, every employee interviewed. Sarah, my old data scientist, had blown the whistle week 3, told FBI what was happening. They'd fast-tracked the arrest. If I'd still been consulting when they moved, I'd have been arrested too. If I'd stayed connected, I'd be fighting federal charges. If my dad hadn't manipulated me into walking away, I'd be facing life in prison. He'd saved me, and died before I could thank him. I spent 3 days reading that letter over and over. 3 days crying, 3 days hating myself for every angry thought I'd had about him. Called Mom. Asked if she knew. She said yes. Dad had told her everything the night before he died. Made her promise not to tell me until after the will. Said I needed to figure it out on my own terms. Daniel wasn't speaking to me. Blocked my number. Mom said he felt betrayed. Thought Dad favored me. Didn't understand why 15 years of loyalty meant nothing. I tried calling him anyway. Left voicemails. Texted. Nothing. Week 3. I showed up at his apartment. He opened the door looking exhausted. Let me in, but didn't offer coffee. Told him about the letter. About Marcus. About FBI. About why Dad did what he did. Daniel listened without interrupting. When I finished, he just shook his head and said, Dad should have told him too. Should have trusted him. Should have included him. I asked if he wanted to work at Richards with me. Help me figure out how to run it. Merge it with what was left of Ethicode. Build something together. He said no. Said he needed to figure out his own path. Needed to prove he could build something without Dad's name. Without my help. Maybe I'd done him a favor. Forced him to stand on his own. We hugged. First time in months. He said he'd call when he was ready. I said I'd wait. Drove to the cemetery that night. Stood at Dad's grave. Told him I understood. Told him I forgave him. Told him I'd make him proud. Started working on Richards the next morning. 40 years of contracts. 23 municipalities. Systems I didn't fully understand. But I'd figure it out. Same way I'd figured out Ethicode. First thing I did? Hired 3 of my old employees from the seized company. The ones FBI had cleared. Sarah included. Told them we were building something new. AI ethics meets smart city infrastructure. Algorithms that don't just detect bias but prevent it in urban systems. 2 months in, we landed our first contract. Small city in Oregon. Wanted traffic system that didn't over-police minority neighborhoods. Exact kind of project Dad's company never considered. Exact kind of work Ethicode was built for. It worked. We merged them. Richards Urban Intelligence. AI governance for smart cities. Marcus's trial started 6 months later. 23 counts. Evidence was overwhelming. My old company's servers showed everything. The botnet, the mining, the laundering. FBI agent I'd spoken to testified, mentioned how my dad had helped them, how he'd protected me. Marcus got 15 years, reduced from 20 because he cooperated. Named other players. Bigger fish, I didn't attend the trial. Didn't need to. He'd already taken enough from me. Year 1 was brutal. Learning smart city infrastructure while running a company. Hiring engineers who respected my vision. Convincing municipalities that AI ethics wasn't just compliance theater. But it worked. Slowly. Richards Urban Intelligence grew. 8 employees year 1. 15 year 2. 22 year 3. Revenue climbed. 1 million year 1. 48 million year 2. $8.3 million year 3. We audited traffic systems for bias. Found patterns where poor neighborhoods got longer red lights. Where minority-heavy areas had more speed traps. Fixed them. Made them fair. Environmental monitoring that didn't just track pollution, but allocated city resources proportionally. Lighting systems that didn't create surveillance gaps in specific communities. Real engineering. Real impact. Exactly what Dad built, but better. Exactly what I'd always wanted to create. Daniel called 18 months after the will. Said he'd started his own IoT consulting firm. Small, just him and 2 contractors. But it was his. Asked if I wanted to get coffee, we met. Talked for 3 hours. He was different. Lighter. Said not getting the company had been the best thing. Forced him to stop coasting, stop hiding behind Dad's name, told him I was proud, meant it. He smiled and said Dad would be proud of both of us. Year 4, we hit $12 million revenue. 38 employees. 18 municipalities. Forbes called asking about my story. Woman rebuilds after father's death. Merges 2 companies into something new. Did the interview. Mentioned Dad. Mentioned his sacrifice. Mentioned how losing everything taught me what really mattered. Article came out December 2028. Mom cried reading it. Said Dad would have framed it. Would have shown everyone. I visit his grave monthly. Update him on the company. On Daniel. On everything. Tell him he was right. About the sale. About walking away. About trusting me with Richards. Tell him I'm sorry I was too angry to see what he was doing. Sorry I wasted our last months being stubborn. Sorry I never got to say thank you while he could still hear it. But I'm living the thank you now. Building what he started. Doing it better. Making him proud with every contract. Every employee. Every city we make more fair. Have you ever destroyed something out of pride? Like if you've ever discovered someone's cruelty was actually love. Sometimes the worst thing that happens is actually the best thing in disguise. Because that's the truth. My dad didn't force me to sell. He saved me. And losing him taught me what his 40 years of work really meant. Not sensors or contracts or money. Legacy, impact, building something that matters more than your ego. Daniel's consulting firm grew faster than either of us expected. Turns out 15 years watching Dad work had taught him more than he realized. He just needed to apply it himself instead of executing someone else's vision. Year 2, he landed a contract with a mid-sized city in Colorado. Smart parking system, his design, his team, his win. Called me after they signed asking if I wanted to celebrate. We got dinner. He looked different, confident, happy. Asked how Richards Urban was doing. Told him about the bias detection work, the traffic systems, the environmental monitoring. He listened genuinely interested, then said something that stuck with me. Dad knew what he was doing. Giving you the company, giving me nothing. He forced us both to grow up. He was right. If Daniel had inherited Richards, he'd still be executing. Never innovating, never building. And if I hadn't gotten it, I'd probably still be consulting somewhere feeling sorry for myself. Dad's last gift wasn't the company. It was forcing us to become who we needed to be. Year 3. Daniel hired his 5th employee. Profitable, growing, building a reputation separate from Dad's name. We started referring clients to each other. His IoT work fed into my AI ethics. My municipality contracts needed his hardware expertise. We weren't competing. We were complementing. Exactly what Dad probably hoped would happen. Mom asked once if I regretted how everything played out. The sale, the manipulation, the lost time with Dad. I told her no. Every painful part led somewhere necessary. Losing Ethicode taught me resilience. Dad's death taught me perspective. The company taught me I could build something bigger than my ego. Regret would mean wishing it had been different. But different might have meant prison. Might have meant never reconciling with Daniel. Might have meant staying small and angry instead of growing into someone I'm proud of being. Year 5, we hit an inflection point. 30 municipalities, 52 employees, $18 million revenue, big enough that acquisition offers started coming. Companies wanting our AI ethics methodology, our government contracts, our team. Every offer I evaluated thinking about Dad, about Marcus, about what happens when you sell something before understanding why someone wants it, turned them all down. Richards Urban wasn't for sale. Not because I didn't want money, because I finally understood what Dad spent 40 years building: legacy, impact, something bigger than exit strategies. One offer came from a legitimate smart city conglomerate. $45 million, fair valuation, clean company. I still said no. CEO asked why. Told him the truth. I'd sold a company once out of pride. Lost everything that mattered. Learned that some things are worth more than their purchase price. This was one of them. He respected that. Said if I ever changed my mind, the offer stood. We stayed friendly. He became a client instead. Daniel's firm hit $3 million revenue that year. We celebrated together. Toasted Dad. Toasted the journey. Toasted becoming people he'd be proud of. Sarah, my old data scientist who'd blown the whistle on Marcus, got promoted to VP of AI ethics. Deserved it. She'd risked everything reporting what she'd seen. Testified at trial. Helped put Marcus away. Now she was leading the team building the work we'd started. Year 8. Marcus got out early. Good behavior, cooperation, served 8 of 15 years. FBI agent called warning me. Said Marcus had asked about me during exit interview. Wanted to know if I'd testified. If I'd cooperated. If I knew he was coming. I said thanks for the heads up, but I wasn't worried. Marcus had taken enough. He didn't get to take my piece too. 3 months later, he showed up at my office. Receptionist called saying someone named Marcus Thompson wanted to see me. I almost said send him away, but curiosity won. He looked older, thinner. Prison had aged him. Sat across from my desk and didn't speak for a solid minute. Finally, I'm sorry. For what I did. For what I almost made you part of. Your dad saved you. Figured you should know that. I asked how he knew. He said FBI told him during interrogation. Said they'd worked with my father. Said if I'd still been connected when they arrested him, I'd have been charged too. My dad had protected me. He was a good man. Smarter than I gave him credit for, I agreed. Asked what he wanted. He said nothing. Just wanted to apologize, to acknowledge what he'd cost me. To say he was trying to rebuild legitimately now, I believed him. Told him good luck. Meant it, held no grudge. He'd served his time. Paid his price. No point holding on to anger, he left. Never saw him again. Heard later he started a small software company. Legit work. Clean money. Maybe prison had taught him something too. Year 10. Richard's Urban Intelligence hit $28 million revenue. 68 employees, 42 municipalities, industry leader in AI ethics for smart cities. Everything Dad built plus everything I'd learned. Awards started coming. Recognition, speaking invitations. Forbes cover story on women rebuilding after crisis. WSJ feature on ethical AI in urban infrastructure. TED Talk on legacy and transformation. Every interview I mentioned Dad. Mentioned his sacrifice. Mentioned how losing him taught me what really mattered. People cried hearing it. Said it inspired them. Said it changed how they thought about failure and loss. Daniel and I co-presented at a Smart Cities conference. His IoT expertise plus my AI ethics. Standing room only. 200 engineers wanting to know how we'd built what we'd built. After the talk, someone asked if our father would be proud. Daniel looked at me. I looked at him. We both smiled and said he already was. That's why he'd given us exactly what we needed, even though it looked like loss at the time. Mom came to that conference. Sat front row. Cried through the whole presentation. After she hugged us both saying Dad was absolutely watching. Was absolutely proud. Had known exactly what he was doing. Today I'm 39, 10 years since that dinner. 7 years since Dad died? Richard's Urban Intelligence is worth $35 million. 75 employees. Industry standard for ethical smart city infrastructure. Daniel's firm does $8 million annually. 23 employees. We collaborate on half our contracts. Stronger together than separate. I visit Dad's grave every month. Tell him about growth. About Daniel. About the impact we're making. About cities that are fairer because of what we built. Tell him I understand now. Why he did it. Why he couldn't tell me. Why he had to make me hate him. He was protecting me. From Marcus. From FBI. From my own pride that would have kept me connected out of stubbornness. The guilt of selling Ethicode fades more each year. Not because it wasn't real, but because I understand it served a purpose. That company had to die so this one could be born. I had to lose everything to build something that mattered. My dad forced me to sell. But he didn't force me. He manipulated circumstances so I'd make the choice that saved me while thinking I was rebelling. That's love. Sacrificing relationship to preserve life. If you're holding guilt over a choice you made, this story is for you. If you've lost someone before understanding them, this is for you. If you've ever wondered whether pain has purpose, listen carefully. It does. Every loss teaches. Every failure builds. Every ending creates space for something new. Subscribe if you believe transformation requires destruction. Like if you believe in this story cruelty was actually love. Share if you know someone who needs to hear that the worst thing that happened was actually the best thing in disguise. That's the truth. My dad didn't fail me. He saved me. And everything I built after came from understanding that sacrifice isn't always obvious. Love isn't always kind. And the people who push us away sometimes do it because they're pulling us toward something better than we can see.